China is quietly rewriting the rules of Russia's war economy, hiking prices, tightening control, and turning Moscow's dependence into pure profit. Turkey, once a crucial lifeline for the Kremlin, is also shifting course as Western pressure bites deeper into its trade routes. Sanctions are reshaping everything, from skyrocketing costs for Russia's defense industry to hidden disruptions in oil payments and collapsing supply chains. Behind the scenes, Western governments see an unexpected advantage, and it may change the strategic balance of the entire war. What exactly is happening, who is winning, and why Moscow's partners are suddenly making life even more difficult for Putin? Let's talk about it. Hello, this is Ukraine Today. Maria Faraponova here with the latest updates. China, now Moscow's most dependable ally, is cashing in on Russia's growing dependence. With Western sanctions cutting off access to critical imports, the Kremlin is forced to seek alternative supply routes. Beijing is exploiting this vulnerability, profiting from Russia's increasing reliance on Chinese goods. Chinese exporters have raised price on military-industrial goods for Russian buyers by 87%, according to a study by a Bank of Finland's Institute for Emerging Economies. A study comparing data from 2021 and 2024 found that for other countries, prices in the same category of goods rose by only 9%. Journalists know that Moscow has indeed managed to rely on Chinese supplies to bypass sanctions. However, Western officials see an unexpected advantage. China overcharging Russia is, in their words, a pretty good outcome.
While the ideal outcome would be to completely sever Russia's military-industrial complex from foreign suppliers, a situation where Chinese companies charge them triple the price is still quite a good result. If you raise the price of a product by 80%, you almost cut in half what they can actually afford to buy.
The authors of the study concluded that the sanctions have restricted Russia's technological capabilities by making the import of critically important goods more expensive. So expensive, in fact, that the so-called cash station country in some cases purchased fewer dual-use goods while paying significantly more for them. Researchers also discovered that Turkey has significantly increased prices for Russian importers by 25 to 55% compared with similar export goods. Overall, Turkey's trade with Russia is slowing due to Western sanctions that are disrupting a key supply chain for Moscow, Bloomberg reports. According to Kutlu Karvelioglu, head of the Machinery Exporters Association, the machinery exporters who benefited most from last year's sharp increase in Turkish shipments to Russia may face a $1 billion drop in sales this year. The reason, he says, is the ambiguous and rapidly expanding sanctions lists, as well as growing restrictions on goods that could potentially be used for military purposes.
No serious corporate equipment manufacturer can remain interested in the Russian market amid growing pressure on the banking system and supply chains.
After the West imposed sanctions on Russia for its invasion of Ukraine, Turkey became one of the largest importers of Russian oil and fuel. However, Western pressure is increasingly being felt. In February, reports indicated that U.S. threats had slowed trade between Moscow and Ankara, leaving Russian suppliers waiting several weeks to receive payments for oil. Turkey is standing firmly with Ukraine. President Erdogan has made a clear statement: Crimea is Ukraine. Moreover, Ankara has effectively become both a logistical and energy hub for Kyiv and its international partners, enabling cooperation and supplies to flow despite Russia's attempts to block key routes. How this new strategic role strengthens Ukraine's position and what it means for the broader regional balance, all the details are in our report.
The end of relations between Turkey and Russia. Ankara has confirmed its support for Ukraine's territorial integrity and its readiness to assist in the country's post-war reconstruction. This was stated by Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan during a joint briefing with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky.
We have once again reaffirmed our commitment to the territorial integrity, sovereignty and independence of our strategic partner Ukraine. At the same time, Turkey is always ready to discuss with Russia any proposals that would speed up a ceasefire and pave the way for a just and lasting peace.
In response, Volodymyr Zelensky emphasizes that Turkey is becoming a key partner not only in matters of security, but also in the restoration of prisoner exchanges, a process Ukraine hopes to restart before the end of the year.
Right now, many processes have become more active, and we are trying to ensure that all this activity is directed specifically toward peace, a dignified peace and guaranteed security.
If you look at Turkish policy, it has always been focused on its own interests, both in relation to Ukraine and in relation to Russia. That is, Turkey does not refuse to trade with the Russian Federation. They do everything that is in their own interests. Of course, right now we are entering Turkey's sphere of interest. They support us. To a certain extent, they do support us. Turkey's policy very clearly reflects this entire 1,000-year-old Eastern approach. Very well thought out, very competent, where above all their own interests come first, especially economic interests.
However, there is still a certain tension lingering in the relationship between Russia and Turkey. Russian tourists found themselves stranded aboard the cruise liner Astorian Grant off the coast of Turkey. In Istanbul, the vessel was denied permission to enter the port. There were more than 600 people on board, residents of Krasnodar Krai, Moscow and Leningrad Oblast, who had purchased a 2-week cruise costing about $3,000. The liner was scheduled to call at Marmaris, Antalya, Bodrum and Izmir. A similar situation had previously occurred with the ferry Sibrik, which was supposed to restore cargo and passenger service between Trabzon and Sochi after a 14-year hiatus. Upon arriving in Sochi, the vessel was unable to dock and return to Turkey. The Russian authorities explained the refusal by claiming the ports were allegedly not technically prepared and unable to ensure the safe reception of vessels. Some Russian media are already calling this Turkey's response to the actions of the Russian authorities. They say that restricting transportation links is becoming a tool of pressure, an indicator of Turkey shifting towards supporting Ukraine and limiting Russia's capabilities in the Black Sea.
Turkey is also a significant and strategic logistics hub for Russia. After all, we must not forget that both the major oil pipelines and the crucial gas pipelines passing through Turkey primarily supply gas and oil from Russia. And the Turkish side serves as a hub not only for Ukraine, but also as the most important and indeed the only hub for Russia.
Meanwhile, Erdogan held a phone conversation with the Russian dictator. According to the Kremlin, the parties discussed bilateral relations, the war between Russia and Ukraine, as well as regional and global issues. Putin allegedly confirmed Russia's interest in resolving the conflict through political and diplomatic means.
There was an exchange of views on the situation around Ukraine, including in the context of American proposals for a peaceful settlement. Vladimir Putin noted that these proposals, in the form in which we have reviewed them, are in line with the discussions at the Russian-American summit in Alaska and, in principle, could serve as a basis for a final peaceful settlement, according to the Kremlin.
President Erdogan, for his part, stated that Turkey is ready to continue its efforts to achieve a just and lasting peace and to participate in any diplomatic initiatives that would facilitate direct dialogue between the parties.
Turkey is ready, as before, to contribute to all diplomatic initiatives and plans that will promote direct contacts between the parties and pave the way for lasting peace in our region, the Communications Directorate of the Republic of Turkey reported.
Although Ankara seeks to maintain its role as a mediator in Russian-Ukrainian relations, its recent actions demonstrate an increasingly clear orientation toward international law and support for Ukrainian sovereignty.
The West is increasingly preparing for the possibility of a direct confrontation with Russia, and the signals are becoming louder. Poland, in particular, has already acknowledged that the potential Kremlin advance toward Warsaw is no longer a distant hypothetical scenario, but a realistic threat. At the same time, the United Kingdom and France are issuing a series of high-profile statements reinforcing the message that Europe must be ready for any escalation. Their governments are openly discussing defense readiness, new security measures, and deeper military coordination. All the details coming up next.
A war between Western countries and Russia is becoming increasingly likely.
As I analyze the facts, I come to the conclusion that a war between Europe and Russia is becoming more and more apparent. This is not just empty talk. Everyone is preparing for it.
The buildup of military equipment, the strengthening of borders, and the increase in defense budgets. All of this is to be able to confront the Kremlin in a few years.
In 3 or 4 years, we may face a kind of test of our resilience. It is already manifesting itself in hybrid forms, but it could become much harsher.
For now, all Russia is capable of is testing the patience of NATO countries. For example, these are, let's say, the accidental incursions of Russian drones into various countries, including Poland. After the recent sabotage of the railway, the Polish authorities announced the launch of a new operation called Horizon to protect critical infrastructure from sabotage.
Most likely this only concerns the territories bordering Ukraine and Belarus. Most likely, well, that is not more than that. But again, well, 10,000 people. What are we talking about here? Well, that's not much. It's a very small number. Our entire border service is about 40,000 people.
As part of the operation, Poland plans to use not only manpower, but also military equipment, mobile security systems, and reconnaissance complexes.
These crossings, additional personnel for guarding infrastructure facilities, training in first aid and tactical medicine, all of this is actually relevant. This really should have been done about 2 years ago. Well, only now are they getting around to it. Well, better late than never, at least they're doing it now. That country out of the entire alliance is the one that spends the most money on purchasing all kinds of weaponry. In other words, over the past few years, they've really made a big leap in buying all sorts of weapons, American, European, and even South Korean.
Warsaw has also launched a program to train citizens in basic safety skills, from first aid to actions in emergency situations.
The Baltic countries have been living in this mode for quite some time already. They've been studying tactical medicine for a long time now. As for drones, it seems that things aren't really progressing for them in that area. But, once again, this is a normal story, something that should be the case for all countries that understand and feel that sooner or later the Russian Federation will come to them.
And Britain and France have already decided which specific units will be sent to Ukraine. But what is clear is that this will happen after a peace agreement.
Their numbers will be minimal. That is, the number, most likely we're talking about, well, 10 to 15,000 people from each country. But again, that's a very small number, very small. They won't be able to do anything. Our active front line with the Russian Federation is 1,250 kilometers long. 1,250? For a peacekeeping mission, that number is definitely not enough.
Nevertheless, any military preparations by the West are not exactly to the Kremlin's liking.
They are forcing themselves to further increase their military budgets. Some countries, like Poland, have already brought it up to almost 5%. Other countries are not going down this path, even though it is killing their economies.
But here's the main question. How ready are European countries really to stand up to the Kremlin right now? And how much more time do they need to prepare?
Germany needs, as they told me, at least another 2 years just to get their army into some kind of order. At least 2 years. Ideally 5 years. Ideally. Well, 5 to 7, that's what they said. 5 to 7 years, ideally. At least 2. But not less than 2. Because it's not just about shells, not just about tanks. Of course, it's about money, allocations, placing orders, starting to assemble equipment. It's about people.
From time to time, NATO countries openly showcase new types of weaponry, reminding the Kremlin of their capabilities.
Turkey has unveiled its first unmanned fighter jet, the Bayraktar Kızılelma, which is now equipped with national weaponry. The United States is launching the development of a new fighter jet, the F-47. According to Trump, the F-47 will feature a new level of stealth.
And Germany is even preparing Bundeswehr soldiers to practice actions in the event of the worst-case scenario. Europe is gradually ramping up its preparations and strengthening its defenses. This situation is clearly not in the Kremlin's favor, since at any moment Russia could face an unexpected pushback.
What do you think about the latest events? Share your opinion in the comments, like the video, and stay informed about the main headlines. More to come?